Hey, shalom, family, and welcome back again to another edition of News, Facts, and Comments Sunday Wrap Session. This is a special report. We're going to do a special report on race, election 2024, and one of my favorite topics, reparations. And we're going to show you how all three of those are intertwined and why it matters. You know, on the thumbnail, you seen the question, does a black vote matter? And of course it does, right? But that is a question that's on the mind of many pundits in today's media outlets. They're pandering, should we say, to the black vote. And now there's the question of the immigrants. Do they have a chance at voting? Or the other group of color, such as Hispanics, how do they weigh in the vote this election season? And how does that affect our chances at achieving reparations? Several news stories have crossed the desk since the last time we conversed together regarding reparations. And so I thought that it was a must needed conversation that we get together and have this conversation. And so with that being said, I'm going to bring in my co-host, Major TV, on Major TV Let's Talk.
How you doing, sis? Shalom. Positive vibes.
I am doing fantastic. Shalom to everybody in the chat. Major, go ahead and let everybody know why you felt it imperative to join me today on this conversation for this special report.
First and foremost, please like, share, and subscribe if you're new to the channel, notification bell, because we dropping content oftenly. But to answer your question, and thank you for viewing, everybody viewing, please share this live. I think it's needed because we're at a critical point in time, whereas everybody is speaking about melanated people and what we have been through and how everybody been paid reparations outside us, right? And we have gotten apologies from presidents. We have been acknowledged of being victimized, discriminated against, targeted, etc. Along with the fact that, like Malcolm said, battle with a bullet, that they clamor for our vote. Didn't know in the end, our vote is important, because there's a divide when two white candidates going up against each other in the white community. So the black people come in there and finalize that. But when it's all said and done, when they go through all the bills, we the last bill, they look at it, then we still don't get what we're supposed to get. So it's very, very much needed. And of course, the question of racism, that's something that's been an issue. That's the foundation of this country. Systemically, we know there have been things put out that have set us back, so that's a real issue as well, you know what I'm saying? So we need to talk about it.
I want to draw your attention to
You're breaking up.
in and out over here. Clear skies, but I want y'all to draw your attention to this video. And some of you may remember it, but I'm going to go ahead and play it just to refresh our memory.
I want to ask you about your running mate. I don't know if you saw, well, I saw the day that the news report broke that Amy Klobuchar was being vetted, and a lot of people on social media, they're not too happy about that. And it's because they want your running mate to be a black woman. I don't know if you saw the op-ed in the Washington Post by some of the leading black women voices in this country, and they feel since black women are such a loyal voting bloc and black people saved your political life in the primaries this year, they have things they want from you, and one of them is a black woman running mate. What do you say to them?
What I say to them is that I'm not acknowledging anybody who is being considered, but I guarantee you there are multiple black women being considered. Multiple.
Thanks so much. That's really our time. I apologize.
You can't do that to black media.
I can't do that to white media and black media because my wife has to go on at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Oh, I'm in trouble.
Listen, you got to come see us when you come to New York, VP Biden.
I will.
It's a long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
It don't have nothing to do with Trump. It has to do with the fact I want something for my community. I would love to see.
Take a look at my record, man. I extended the voting rights 25 years. I have a record that is second to none. The NAACP has endorsed me every time I've run. I mean, come on. Take a look at the record.
All right. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Anyway, thanks. I will come back.
All right.
I look forward.
So, Major, do you remember when that video came out?
Yes.
So, considering what he said, check the record, check my record, right? Considering what he said, how does that make you feel in light of where we are in his statements that he's making in regards to the black community and Donald Trump today?
Well, I never really had any commentary on it, but I know there was a major outcry and disgust at those remarks. But I'm going to say this, right? He's just saying he's a better slave master than the other slave master. That's how I took that, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And we look at his record, we already know the things came out of him about him being cool with different segregationists or racists and stuff that was in Congress and whatnot. And just his backstory is very, very flaky and what have you. So for me, it was just an insult, just no more than what they said about the mugshot with Donald Trump and the sneakers, you know, when it came down to black people.
But then Charlemagne said, Charlemagne let him go when he said something about the black women and the black women's vote, right?
Right.
How much do you think the Democrats just depend on black women coming out and just automatically giving their vote to the Democrats just because they're black women and that's what they've done traditionally? It
like you just said, basically just implying it's a norm, you know what I'm saying? They vote Democratic. And that's where the big swing coming when black women and blacks people voting for Donald Trump. And I don't know why it's a major outcry, because Trump did put on some critical things about the Democrats and how they are selling dreams. And I'm not saying he's saying about the race card, I'm saying, but they have talked about race a lot and what have you. But when you look at the bills and regulations that's passed, is none concerning what they mainly be talking about, what have you. So for me, still, again, it's an insult. It's undermining the integrity of the voting process in reference to understand that black women are voting for you just to be voting for you. They vote for you to be able to pass laws to help them as black women in our community, you know, and they are not looking at it like that. It's just a traditional thing where they believe black women should vote based upon a lot of stuff. And, you know, in fairness, Republican Party have done a good job. You know, they have supported big business. They have support a lot of racist undertoning situations and what have you, especially since they've been supporting Trump, what have you. But right. Still, we're in a no-win situation, like almost.
Well, there was a recent article that came out with NBC News. And by the way, this is for educational purposes. So please don't give me any copyright strikes. I forgot to do that little disclaimer, but this is the disclaimer. We're showing these videos and reading these articles for educational purposes, our commentary on this individual copyrighted material. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at this video here. This is from an article from NBC News, Major, and it says Black voters in North Carolina skeptical of both Biden and Trump. So I'm going to go ahead and play the video, but keep in mind, I want you to answer this question. If not Biden and if not Trump, do you think it's time for our voters, Black voters, to sit one out completely or choose an independent candidate? But before you answer that, I want you to go ahead and take a look at some of this clip.
Tonight, the major warning for both President Biden and former President Trump from a demographic that may prove critical in the 2024 election, Black voters. A new focus group in North Carolina telling NBC News many of them will not vote for Trump, but they're not thrilled about Biden either, a political phenomenon known as double haters.
First thing that comes to mind, President Biden.
Old, right?
Incompetent.
I look at him as kind of smug and entitled.
What's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of Donald Trump?
Crazy. Powerful. He's definitely racist.
The NBC News Deciders Focus Group, a collaboration with Engage's Syracuse University and Sago, finding that despite the Black community's historic support for President Biden, these voters now have major reservations.
A lot of the things that they say are for Blacks and for everybody, but they'll just say it's for Blacks in the beginning.
I feel like some of this is performative.
The panelists at times struggling to name anything President Biden had done for the Black community.
We all don't go to HBCUs. What are you doing for Black students? Not just HBCUs.
Presented with the White House's messaging on Biden's work for the Black community, the group panned his efforts to broadcast his accomplishments.
I think that it's all political mumbo jumbo.
Despite their harsh words for President Biden, most said they would vote for him. The group left some of their most biting criticism for former President Trump.
He's sexist. He's delusional. He's old as hell. Oh, I'm sorry. He's very old.
Especially over his recent remarks about the Black community.
And then I got indicted a second time and a third time and a fourth time. And a lot of people said that that's why the Black people like me, because they have been hurt so badly and discriminated against.
That's probably one of the most racist comments he's ever made.
It feels like he thinks we're all criminals.
It's like an insult. It's like, are you serious? That's what you think of us?
What do all you make of some Republican backers of Trump who say that Trump's marketing of sneakers appeals to Black voters?
It's like a joke, not taking us seriously.
President Biden has always massively outperformed Trump among Black voters. He pulled ahead of Trump by nearly 60% in January's NBC News poll. But compared to where those numbers sat in the 2020 exits, his hold on the Black vote is starting to slip. North Carolina, the state these voters call home, is in play in 2024 and could be the difference between re-election and a historic defeat for the president. Now the rise of the double haters raising a critical question. Will the Black voters who have been in Biden's corner for years show up for him one more time in the most important election of his life?
Yamiche joins us tonight from Washington. Yamiche, you always learn something when you hear from these focus groups, and we saw.
All right, so we're gonna hold our little focus group right now, right here, Major. So back to the question I asked before I played the video. If not Biden, if not Trump, then what? Independent or don't vote at all? You're muted.
I'm sorry. At this point, I think a lot of people are already thinking this way, but I'm gonna say this first and foremost. It's an individual choice. I'm never one to tell nobody what they should and shouldn't do. I just try to present the facts, and if I lean towards a certain ideology or candidate, I may speak about it. But I want people to see what's out there, right? Just like what they're trying to do with Trump and Biden, and now we know about the great Dr. Cornel West, right? And of course, he's a plausible candidate because any Black person we ever heard ran for presidency, trying to run for it, he is more vocal about reparations, race relations, talking about race discrimination, talking about helping the poor, outspoken about what's going on in the Middle East, et cetera, right? So for me, I'm gonna just say this. I just feel like, is it working for us? You know what I'm saying? Or is it working for you? I'm gonna say no for you. And then we can say us. Do you believe in democratic system and how with all the BS, right? Do you realize that for years we've been voting and what have you, been getting very little change? There are people that lost their life on the voting lines trying to make a difference, right? Giving honor to our ancestors and whatnot to fight for this right, getting the Civil Rights right passed 1964. And also you have a candidate that's out there that's speaking about a lot of things that did to us, you know what I'm saying? So I feel like, I don't know, you know what I'm saying? I could just speak for myself, you know what I'm saying? But I just feel like that decision should be a personal decision and what have you. But I think the proof is in the pudding. And there's not a whole lot of places we can look at. You know what I'm saying? So what we have, I mean, as far as the right decision to make, I just think whatever decision we make, we should make it off intelligent decision, not just off of we feel like we got to vote for Trump or vote for Biden.
So what about that comment that Trump made at his rally in regards to insulting the Black community by tying his indictments and his mugshot pictures, him going to jail, to likening that to characteristics of the Black community? And did it offend you? In other words,
I'm gonna be honest with you. None that they do offend me. I understand what we're dealing with. We're dealing with old white men from back in the day that's holding the same person. He the same person talking about bringing back the old days. What were the old days? You know what I'm saying? The hosing, the beating, the false incarceration, the hanging, the color line, the Jim Crow of color can drink over here and whites only. It is equivalent or probably worse than the statement you just talked about when Joe Biden said if Black people don't vote for him, you know what I'm saying? They're not Black or whatever the case might be, how he had phrased it, right? It's equivalent or worse. I just feel like we're in this the issue that I really, really have. You want to hear the truth? We're in their world, you know what I'm saying? We're in their world, right? And we've been fighting for the same rights for how long? And we in a democratic system, whereas even we do everything right, you know, they still do what they want to do. So it's kind of like gift and curses. It's good that we have the idea of the right to vote is a curse because we did all that for what? To not be heard, to not be helped, to not be treated equal. That's not right. But that was horrible. That was despicable. I don't be into all that. I hear about it, but I don't be on no watching all that because nothing's a problem to come down to people like Donald Trump.
So then, if we're talking about nothing surprises you, Trump allies to launch an effort to win over Black voters. How about the allies? He met with a group of conservative, the Black Conservative Federation. Then the event was held a day before the Republican primary in South Carolina. So whose state is a population is 1/4 Black. And it came against the backdrop of a collection of groups closely aligned with Donald Trump's campaign, preparing to launch an effort to land Republicans an historic chunk of Black vote in 2024 elections. So they are saying that they have a coalition of individuals who are of the Black persuasion that are gearing up to put their vote behind Trump. So do you think that this wave of Blacks for Trump is a real thing? Do you think that the majority of the Blacks, in your opinion, do you think that he's gonna turn out like 50% of the vote?
I think so because we as a community don't have enough of each other. We not like something like the Jewish community or other communities, the Italian community. We not set up whereas we have that one verse, a group we listen to that we respect and what have you, that could direct us, right? And Black people are, we gotta realize most Black people are into the capitalism of this democracy heavy, like, right? And if they can feel like they can get a little over there whether they lying or not. They can get a little bit over there. They can get some HBCUs or what have you. The Black conservatives are happy with that, right? Because the Black community haven't established a coalition of individuals in our community that's respected, that have some kind of integrity and moral character, and understand what the fight is about. Like it's always been interpreted on it, and it's them versus us. They always looked at it as a war. We haven't, you know what I'm saying? Those who looked at it like that, it was killed, ostracized, or silenced. So it's like, and a lot of our people here, they have no other choice. They got to vote for somebody. So when you have these conversations we're having right now, it's like They're looking for what we have to offer when we talk about what we need to go with Cornel West or we need to do self-determination. I feel like with those black conservatives, they're straight capitalists. Let's get it straight. And they're about working within the system or what have you. So for them, they're just looking for the benefit of the doubt, unfortunately.
So if Trump says something like this, that Democrats have done a very poor job for Black Americans, he said that they said that he related this because they understand he's been discriminated against in the legal system. So they understand Trump because we're supposed to understand Trump because he's been discriminated against in the legal system. So do you think that Trump is right in that we gravitate towards him because we really do feel like the Democrats have let us down, particularly pertaining to the criminal justice system?
The beauty of what Trump says is true, right? The beauty of it, right? And you know what's the irony of all this? Trump have shown you, unlike Biden, he can get certain things there if he really wants to, because why? He got the populists, you know what I'm saying? He's popular, and he got the Republicans behind, which have a strong verse, and they're controlling Congress and states, different states in the U.S. and what have you. So he can get a bill passed, like, right? And we'll be happy because he got it passed. He have that much power to appease whoever you want to appease in the Black community or the Black community period, and do something, right? Because he can flex do that because he have that influence and power, and that's what make him a real wild card to win again, because Biden don't have that kind of influence. So, and what he's saying is really true. And even though he's upholding a lot of racist values of this country, he is willing to show them, the powers that be, that, hey, look, we got to give them this, we got to give them that to keep the power and so forth, so on. And that's what they have been doing. So when he got a few little things did, what you heard Black people saying, oh, Trump do that. They talking about his record and what have you. Which when they say you compare, Trump to Biden, is about what and what or what have you, what they did with the Black community, because he able to turn out certain things that they're not doing, and he making get it done. That's all Black people willing to hear. That's supporting him, and that's why it's a divide in the Black community, and actually a civil war. You know what I'm saying? The Black Democrats and the Black on Republicans. Among other groups and what have you, that's for self-determination and whatnot.
Then what about the comments that he made in reference to the district attorneys that are pressing charges against him, both civil and on the federal level and on the state level, in New York and also in Georgia? He's made disparaging comments about likening them to animals and things of that nature.
That's the MO that we could call Africa shithole countries. He called them Mexicans, criminals and thieves and whatever. We don't care about that. We care about results. Black people to the point where they've been called the N-word so long, they've been called all ugly words, right? They don't care. They're looking for results. And I'm not saying I'll produce the promise of results, but they don't care, because they did, they would never voted for him. You know what I'm saying? And they still won't be supported. So that's who he is. He's one of a kind type of president and person. Like, you gotta remember, this man caught on camera saying you just gotta grab a pussy. And the Me Too movement didn't even touch that. But it went to the Black people that did wrong to women, right? Allegedly did wrong. So we're dealing with a situation whereas with a very powerful individual that's been a rock star since the 80s. And still, when I say rock star, I'm just proud of being a celebrity or what have you, right? And people really clam on to him. And unfortunately, our people do too.
Yeah, well, he's definitely playing into that right now with the case against Fannie Willis. Here it is that she is a district attorney that is prosecuting him, and he's defaming her, and yet they're going after her and want to have her basically have her career railroaded because she has had some type of extramarital affair with a special prosecutor. So just like you say, they will accept Trump with defaming women, but they won't accept a district attorney, happens to be Black, who's bringing valid charges, but the just the sense of impropriety in her with handling funds has ruled her almost not eligible to try any cases in Georgia, probably. But it's all up to the judge in that matter. But it all goes down to this race thing, right? And how our vote is being used to as a I guess you can say like a ball in a hockey game. Like you hit the puck, I guess you call it the puck, right? You hit the puck back and forth, and who's going to actually garner their vote this time. And so I want you to listen to this.
Before you say, let me listen real quick.
Yeah.
With Fannie, it's not about Trump. It's about the people behind Trump that support Trump. You know, that want him to be president. You know what I'm saying? So it's bigger than Trump. It's the people, but it's the money behind Trump, the machine behind Trump, and the people. He got DeSantis and all of them to bow. You know what I'm saying? After there was Slick Side trying to go against him, right? He got a lot of these people that was caught. They thought they had more men to become president. He got most of them to bow. So, make a long story short, it's not really Trump, it's the people that's behind him that want to see him there as well. So when she did what she did, they came with hell at her. And they tried up, they dug and dug till they found something, unfortunately.
Well, Trump was recently in South Carolina for the South Carolina primary, and these women sat down and spoke with NBC News. Let's go ahead and take a listen to what they have to say in regards to the elections.
Charleston, South Carolina, known for its rich history, culture, picturesque streets, and politics.
Just by a show of hands, who's excited for the 2024 election? Excited.
We gathered this group of Black women voters ahead of the state's Republican presidential primary. Their backgrounds, ages, and political views vary, but we found many of the same issues drive them to the polls.
Women's maternal health. Someone my age may not have the same rights in terms of reproductive health that a generation before me had.
Also top of mind, crime, student loan debt, and state efforts to ban books.
As an African American literature professor, that is something that is very concerning.
There are concerns about the overall political climate.
It's divisiveness, it's opposition, it's social issues being politicized.
Despite dividing his time between the courtroom and the campaign trail, former President Trump leads the state's former governor, Nikki Haley, by double digits.
I am more so dismayed with the fact that in the year 2024, we would even consider someone who is under indictment.
At 81 years old, President Biden also faces challenges.
His age is a huge barrier.
Black women, a key voting bloc, but far from a monolith. Each one here voicing their own views.
Table discussions like this where we are comfortable and able to speak in layman's terms, to bring up issues, to get a little bit messy around the topics.
A conversation turning to action this election cycle.
We got to vote. We have to vote.
But the question is, you know, they're saying that they have to vote, but the question is, who did you vote for? You keep voting for the same machine, or like you said, you used the term machine. You keep voting for the same machine that has done absolutely nothing. In at this time where we're competing with other nations in technology and manufacturing and things of that nature, and our children being miseducated or not educated, we're steady going to be falling behind in regards to building generational wealth for our children. So, you know, how do we get individuals to understand that we have to look at this thing from through the lens of wanting to change, not just for yourself, but wanting to change for the greater good of the entire nation? How do we get people on board with that? Because that's the only way that we're going to be able to achieve reparations or achieve putting someone in office, whether it be at the state level or at the presidency level, someone in office that will fight for reparations from day one. What's it gonna take?
I'm gonna just say, like, in my own way, what I do, I just share information. I learned a long time because you can't force nothing on nobody. And a lot of people's minds are made up, right? These people feel like they gotta vote because they want something to happen now. And this is where the problem become a real issue of answering, because if you say, well, they want help now and they're not doing anything for you, but you say, look over here, we got something over here. And if it's not in the now moment, it discourages people because they look at how long they've been having the right to vote and how they fall for the right to vote, and to be in a position whereas they are told that you either gonna hold your vote, go independent, or not, hold your vote, go independent and vote, but don't vote a Democrat or a Republican. It becomes an issue because some people are afraid that if they don't vote and things don't go the way they think it should go, and they still speaking out, then they might feel like they dropped the ball. So it's a real dilemma. And I think it's just not, for me, I just think we got to keep sharing information, because whether we want to believe it or not, we lost a lot of battles. You know what I'm saying? We won and lost a lot. We lost more battles than won. And I don't really want to say they don't do nothing for us, but compared to what they do for us, it's almost like nothing. Whatever they give us, they roll it right back. So, like I say, it's very delicate. That's why I just put the information out there, because we might not see in our lifetime some of the things that we think we should have as a community, right? But I feel like we're doing a job of putting the information out there. It's on people to see the light, because we can have this conversation, town hall right now, and you have them very sisters give you pushback on some of the things we're talking about. You know what I'm saying? And addressing a lot of things that need to be addressed in our community that nobody hall addressing. You know what I'm saying? Nobody hall addressing. I'm not talking from just a verbal standpoint. I'm talking about put boots on the ground. The people who are doing it, they're doing it. I have no time to be doing interviews and be talking all the time,
Yeah, that is true. I mean, I've been trying to track down a couple of people since the beginning of the year, and I get the same response that they are busy, but they want to get to me, but they're busy. And I totally understand that, and I appreciate the efforts. You know what I mean? So with that being said, they are holding the National Reparations Convention, and we have to talk about it, because if we don't talk about it as individuals that representing media or getting the word out to the people, then who's going to get the word out for them? So that's why I try to bring this information forward to the people, to let them know that, hey, yeah, they are gathering. All different types of groups are gathering in Washington, D.C., May 17th through the 19th. It is a National Reparations Convention 2024. If you're going to vote for something, and like those ladies says, we got to vote. We need to vote. If you're going to vote for something, then you can text reparations to 877-506-2184 and see what happens. It doesn't cost you anything. Just see what happens. You cast your vote for reparations, and let's see what happens. If this time, maybe with NRC, National Reparations Convention, maybe we can really get something going. Now, Major, I want to kind of switch gears, because I know that I don't have you long here. I want to ask you about the idea of how can I say this? The idea of working with so-called allies that's not of melanated persuasion, in an attempt to move a candidate through to the White House or to a state legislature position, or actually working with us on the campaign for reparations.
Can you be a little more specific about working with allies, meaning as far as getting donations and whatnot?
Right, and having them like actually put boots in the ground to actually speak on the cause.
I don't think a white person should listen. me tell you that. Let me speak carefully about what I'm about to say. I do feel like everybody should speak out against racism, the mistreatment of melanated people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Um, I think we should have a conversation where, well, should we actually include um somebody of white descent, what have you. Um, I'm not gonna say that now, just based upon the fact that for me personally, I've never thought about it like that, right? In the sense of actually dealing with somebody in reference to the white people dealing in our community, right? Even though I know there's some white people active in reference to like donating, talking about certain things and what have you. But I'm not at this juncture in my life ready to say, well, it should be this, that, and other. But I'm not closed minded to the discussion and the possibility of it.
So, were you aware that there were different calls for? I'm sure you're aware that there were different calls for reparations around the country, right?
Yeah.
And um, as we think about reparations, and we're talking about these elections, should we be focused on these individuals that are headed to Congress, that are headed to Washington, that's representing these individual states? Shouldn't we be identifying candidates um, that's aligned with our agenda as far as bringing economic prosperity back to our communities, as well as um, achieving the long plight of getting reparations?
Most definitely. And go back to what you're saying. If you have a white candidate that is talking like that and have proven, have a track record of demonstrating, helping melanated people in the poor community, of course, you know what I'm saying? Because we live in this society, right? But yeah, with any candidate, we should do our research. Their value system should align with us in reference to what we need in our community, in reference to a better education, affordable housing, healthcare, um, economic development. You know what I'm saying? And some kind of reparations that can help. You know what I'm saying? Melanated people that have been victim of racism, and not, I'm excuse not racism of slavery, but descendant of slaves or what have you. But people that have lost property, land, and what have you due to the onslaught of discrimination, racism, and white people just taking people land and stuff like that. So most definitely, I think we should definitely be closed minded, but I also really believe that it should be an in-house thing more than anything, because we've been waiting and waiting. I don't think we're gonna see another John Brown and his children or family again. You know what I'm saying? So if it's not a John Brown, I'm not really even, like even with it like that, right? But I try to stay open-minded, because if there's somebody that can help the cause and not hurt it. But in most cases, I don't know too many stories of white people really helping our cause like that.
Well, that was an individual that came up in the discussion that Cornel West had over, I believe that was in Georgia. He was just in Georgia, I believe that was. But that's what he spoke to, just that point, Major. So I want to show you something else. We're not going to watch the whole video, but I do want for you to get the drift of it, because it goes back to what you were saying about with reparations and land and proper repair for all the atrocities that our people have gone through for over the years.
Mhm.
And it speaks to the bigger picture that all of us are basically saying, no matter if we ADOs, FB, FBA, or B1, or Muslim, or whatever faith that you may espouse to, right? We're all saying the same thing, that a harm was done to us. You enslaved the people. We experienced Jim Crow. That's the worst discrimination ever. We still have to vote for civil rights, as far as voting rights, and they're systematically erasing a lot of legislation that has been passed since this descendants of slaves were free since the phrase slaves were free, now they're rolling back all of those amendments that they put to the Constitution to help give us those civil rights. They're rolling those same rights back by passing other bills that were kind of like null and void previous work. So with that being said, I want you to pay attention to where we are as a nation of people in our mindset. When you take your thumb and you put it in the air and you test the temperature, this video, I think right here, encompasses where we are as a people in our mindset in regards to our vote, reparations, and how this nation has systematically discriminated against us as a nation of people. So take a listen.
It has been over 150 years since the end of slavery, but inequality still persists among the Black community. And according to my next guest, it would take more than a check to repair the systemic damage that has been done. Joining us now is Marcus Anthony Hunter, professor of sociology and African American studies at UCLA and author of the new book, Radical Reparations: Healing the Soul of a Nation. I'm glad you're here to talk about this, Marcus. If reparations were to be done, what would the effect be on the Black community? And would it be enough, or at least a beginning?
Yeah, it's important that we understand that whenever we're hearing reparations, we're thinking bigger than just a check or just money. For example, one of the first things that happened during slavery is that a bit of iron was placed into kidnapped people's mouths, which means that it steals their smile. And so the question becomes, is there a reparations that is monetary that can address the loss of something like a smile? And the answer is no. And so instead, what we need to be thinking about are what I call 7 forms of reparations, or the piles and piles of debt. Political reparations, intellectual reparations, legal reparations, economic reparations, spatial, social, and spiritual reparations. And all of those together comprise what I call radical reparations, which really plants the seeds of an infrastructure of equity, which is beneficial to not only Black Americans or African Americans, but also to everyone who is poor, working class, middle class in this country.
Marcus, how do you harness all 7 of those and begin to move forward on that? Where do you begin?
So you begin in some ways with the social, because at the beginning of the day, any experience you have in a nation is a social contract. And so we have to start thinking about ways that we can create public awareness campaigns. And in fact, some of that has been already going forward. Shout out to the 1619 Project, which has led to what we've seen as book banning, which means that we're not at liberty to share the history and the truth of what made the United States a country, which is land dispossession and enslaving Black Africans.
Can I ask you how open America seems to be today to the idea of reparations? Because as you're saying, it's not just about a check. People who oppose to being able to look at the amount of money that might be owed based on what was taken, there's a hard calculus on that, but there is so much more that can be done. Where does America stand on this emotionally, do you think?
I think, I'm an optimist, and I think that we are at a better time than we've ever been. In fact, I appreciate you and your whole team for having a conversation on the airways about reparations. Once upon a time, not long ago, it was very hard to even discuss it, even amongst Black people. So the fact that we see states like California and New York, cities like Evanston and Asheville, North Carolina, and so many other places in between, doing this work of at least talking about it, studying it, means that we are in a very, very good place to see it perhaps in our lifetimes, which is amazing.
Yeah, and I'm glad you called out California. I've actually closely followed what's happened in Manhattan Beach, particularly that family that has been given a bunch of money and some property, which they can turn around and sell and make the money they want to. But it was money and property that was stolen from them over 100 years ago. It is extraordinary that Manhattan Beach has taken that. A relatively small community in California has taken that step. Let me ask you about your book. I want you to...
All right, so that was that part right there. So, Major, what are your thoughts on this particular piece? Did he basically surmise what we got going on right now? Did he put his thumb on what's going on?
I believe he did. He did. It within the little time he had. I think he touched upon it. But I feel like definitely you touch upon it, whereas he brought somewhat clarity to it. Her question basically was about how reparations may look, and is it just monetary and what have you, I believe. And I think he gave her the answers to that, but it's a much broader conversation. And for me personally, to have the conversation, you have to first go into what all happened. You know what I'm saying? Because it was slavery, then it was after slavery. You had land stolen, you had redlining, you had predatory lending, you had a lot going on. You had towns that were destroyed, you know what I'm saying? And was given very little back in comparison to what they lost and whatnot. So it's a lot, that we have to look at. And then you got to also look at disparity with employment, or with them failing to want to hire black people in executive position until we started filing civil actions and what have you. It's a lot, So when you look at it, even when it comes out of taxes and what have you, how a lot of black businesses ran out of business because of the IRS targeting and so forth, so on. So there is some things, and I know that's kind of broad, but I'm trying to say it's so much we can angle it that it just don't have to be in monetary,
So did you hear about the $80 billion reparations push at Atlanta, where you are, near where you are, sir?
No.
Did you hear about that?
No.
Let's dive a little bit deep into that. Activists are sitting on Atlanta warning of serious consequences if lawmakers don't back $80 billion reparations push despite cash crunch in Georgia's hospital and prison systems. So the activists want a task force to tally up compensation for slavery era abuses. Conservatives say they are already struggling to keep hospitals and jails open. So, let's see here. Anquas Kabi with reparations push, and others want House politicians to create the Georgia Equity and Fairness Commission, which would devise a compensation package for the descendants of slaves. Republicans oppose the plan, saying it's not fair to single out one group for payments, especially when Georgia's cash-strapped hospitals are shuttering and the state's overcrowded prisons need more space. Well, if you stop locking individuals up for petty crimes, you probably would not have that issue. But also, it says Georgia could be looking at with economic compensation policies and laws to protect us and forgiveness of debt. It could be upwards of 80 billion, Cosby told the DailyMail.com. So, what do you think about that? That goes to what I was saying about having state representatives in position to cast that vote for something like this without having to get pushback from Republicans, because if they're not seated, or if they are seated, but they're seated because we put them there because they want to see us win on reparations, then this would be a non-starter. But Major, what do you think? How do you think that relates to state representatives in these positions representing our best interests as our representatives?
My answer to that is that they are the minority, right? And when you're going there trying to pass a bill or law, there's always the other side trying to compromise, trying to get what they want and what have you. And then, and I hate to say this, but I'm going to tell it. If it was Donald Trump, office, and if he wanted something, I think it should be done on a federal level to make the state, do it. But if Donald Trump was over, he'd say, well, getting reparations, they probably would do it. I hate to say it. I just hate to say it, with the influence and power we got. But on a local level, I think it's hard because of in Georgia, it's controlled by the Republicans, you know what I'm saying? So, you have a few black people in the local legislation or Georgia legislation that's trying to pass that. How can they do it? You know what I'm saying? Let's be realistic about it. And if they decide to give it to them, what kind of compromise you gonna take? You know what I'm saying?
So that's what I'm talking about. That's where we come in as a group of people that are constantly every term, senators and Congress people are elected every 2 years. So I believe it's every 2 years. So every term we should be looking for someone to either maintain that seat that we placed there or someone to replace that individual when it comes down to representing us. We need to put up, find individuals, seek out individuals that are willing to represent the people and truly have our best interests in mind if we're going to continue to participate in their political system. We have to identify those individuals that are ready to go to work for the people, being the representative.
I agree with that, but a lot of them are easily bought off. A lot of them are easily silenced. A lot of them realize it's not as easy as they thought it was and whatnot. I really believe, I agree totally 100% with you, but that's the reality. But I believe if you get the federal, you can convince the federal level to authorize it. It'll put more pressure on the states, even though they might not file a suit or in the beginning, but with the pressure, they would definitely do it and what have you. But locally, you can try. I just feel like a lot of these states are just so controlled by Republicans that do look at reparations as some of the look at what we've been through and our forefathers been through some of the past and whatever, and just don't want to give it to us. They'll find a reason for the support wars. They'll find a reason to incarcerate us, build more prison. They'll find reasons to put money wherever at. You know what I'm saying? But when it comes down to us, they still look at us as important. But I do agree with you with that. I just hope that when we put them there, can they get the job done, or will they get caught up like a lot of us who got it in the positions and then wind up being like one of them? Like I told him cool, the professor. Shout out to this brother here. He gave me something where a report. I've been finished reading it, and there's it's dealing with equity, inclusion, right? And a number of other things. I kind of got like tired and thought I just keep my head right. And right now there's an issue, right? Whereas I apologize for not remembering the report, but right in my phone. The issue was the black lady who was a Democrat. Once she got a seat in Georgia County, she flipped it Republican. You know what I'm saying? That's an issue right now. You know what I'm saying? I have to go to it to tell you about it. We can finish talking, but that's the issue right now. And she was
so you brought that up. You brought that up to say that she was a sister that ran as a Democrat, and then once she got in, she switched parties.
Yeah, and I'm trying to tell you, like, even when you find those who talking the talk, it even show where they probably did things for the community. Overall, overall, some of them flip, and she flipped. And if you have to change parties, you can change positions, But she changed parties. I'm about to go find it right now. I can pull the brother's name up.
So what about we getting behind one independent party, not a Democratic party, not a Republican party, but withholding the vote for the primary? The big election is coming up this Tuesday, right? Everybody go out to vote. The primary election is Tuesday, I believe. If everybody will hold their vote and don't vote and just wait until the general election and then write in an independent candidate, someone that we could vet and someone that we could be assured that want to push our agenda, especially reparations. Because people say money is not everything, but I think that money will start to definitely get our economy going within our communities with all the talent that we have in our community. I think that we could definitely start to revive our communities again on so many different levels. So yes, reparations will help along with land and along with debt forgiveness. That was something very, very interesting that's on the agenda on an independent candidate's agenda, such as Cornel West. So I know I can't hold you long, Major. We got Mimi B in the chat. Not familiar with Mimi B, but Mimi B, I thank you for tuning in with us and giving us your take on the matter. Shouts out to everybody else that's in the chat. Thank you for joining us. Give us a thumbs up. And share the video. Let them know that we're talking about reparations rates in elections 2024. It matters. Does a black vote matter? I think it does matter, especially when they're trying to pander to us. They're using us as freebies. I'm like, okay, well, now Trump gonna get the black vote this time. No, we're gonna get the black vote this time. How do y'all feel being used in that manner? How does that feel? But does that give you some type of power that you don't realize that you really have? Major, do we have power that we have not began to unleash, or haven't come to fruition to say, hey, we have this power now, let's use it effectively? Do you think that we just dumb to the fact that we have the power?
I believe we have power, but we have divided power, whereas as a unit, we not operating effectively, but individually, we have showed we have power and influence because we have changed cultures and what have you. We have made people respect us. Even like I said the other day, it was never expected for us to be, the way we are, despite how bad we think it is. We overcame some atrocities during slavery, and Jim Crow. So they never expected for us to be the way we are. And for me, like for instance, I'm gonna show you for instance. Now I told you about this report, right? This is from W. Du Bois Southern Center for Studies in Public Policy. This Georgia Legislative Review 2023. So these are all professors and stuff. Shout out to Professor at Clark Atlanta, Gerard. He wanted me to check it out, right? And it's about diversity, equality, inclusion, right? And it's a report just dealing with why we have to be a part of, this society, in reference to like having a police officer in our community that look like us, having somebody that representing us in the city council, and government, and legislature, what have you, right? And I told you about this lady who had flipped, right, and became Democratic. She was Democrat first, then she wound up getting in office and turned around Republican. But get to my point is, just this report right here explains why we should be a part of it, right? And for me, I think this is needed, right? And not just with this government. I'm talking about what is dealing with self-determination or what have you. And I also feel like, like when it comes out of power, we have shown that we can change things. We have shown that not just currently, but in the past, all the inventions, all the things we created, the ideas and whatnot, how we was behind certain things we never even knew about, right? And look at it now, and just look at the wave of the music, right? And I'm going to, of course, the motherland and how it's transcending into Afrobeats and what have you. And I'm looking at like different things that's happening, right, in reference to businesses and what have you. And then us just overcoming a lot of things that we wasn't expecting to overcome. You know what I'm saying? And we still like in the thick of it. You know what I'm saying? With all the division. So and we still making noise. You know what I'm saying? And then look at the funny part. On top of that, we are the one who determined to be in office. That's powerful. Right. And see, one more thing I want to say before I finish is the reason why they want our vote so much, because even though they do everything wrong, they do everything illegal, they be undercutting, they know that's a right, to vote. They know that you in a position to put somebody in office that can make a change, that can say something or do something that can create change. And that scares them more than anything. Even though we know we undermine it, even though they're still getting away from with a lot of illegal stuff they're doing in reference to the voting party and what have you, gerrymandering and all that. At the end of the day, you know what I'm saying, we still have a voice. We still have power. We just got to know how to exercise it.
Well, my brother, you and I can talk for hours about this conversation, and your opinion is much appreciated. I always love your input. You can stick around if you want to a little bit longer. That would be great. You know what I mean?
Only
But
everybody
if you
look.
have to go, I understand.
I mean, I don't have to go, but I would get some to eat, what have you. I can stick around for a little bit. I ain't sticking around long, you know what I'm saying? But
Roger that. But I want to say salute to everybody that's in the chat and everybody that may listen later. Thank you for tuning in to NFNC Sunday Rap Session special report on race, reparations, and elections 2024. As we move into our second second hour here with news, facts, and comments Sunday Rap Session, I just want you guys to be mindful that we're talking about Black voters and how their vote really matters in regards to how other nations view us and how we our race is very much affected or very much the vocal point in us achieving and receiving reparations. So as Black voters consider presidential candidates this November, it's clear that they're not going for the status quo. They want to see some real reparations. They want to see a hate crime bill. They want to see the government move in a direction that's for the people. So with that being said, someone who's so familiar with what the people want, who has boots on the ground and so familiar with working with the people in these positions of trying to achieve self-determination, I have my beautiful friend, Mr. Ramzu Yunus, who I like to bring in on this conversation because he does have knowledge about self-determination in respect to the UN and also reparations in respect to the UN. So I want everyone to welcome Brother Ramzu Yunus to the platform once again. He's not a stranger here. We all know Brother Ramzu Yunus, Human Rights Policy Officer. Welcome, brother, once again. Salute, brother.
Salute, sister. Salute, Comrade Major. Salute to everyone that's listening. Peace. Blessings to everyone.
I'm not quite sure how much of that conversation that you heard, but of course, you know, we were definitely talking about Biden and his attempt to maintain the status quo vote from the Black electorate, as well as Donald Trump's recent ploy to make sure that he garners the attention of the Black vote so that he can take a nice slice. He wants to move into the 50% percentile as far as the African American vote for this election. Now, I know that you have traveled abroad and have recently found yourself a topic of conversation in regards to election interference and so-called misinformation, right? So there was an article that was written, and you brought it to my attention, and I'm not quite sure if the listening audience was aware of this article, but I just want to bring it to other people's attention to let them know that what you're doing and what you're attempting to do, Brother Ramzu, is very noteworthy, and they are paying attention. And when they're writing articles about you months later, then that's very telling. Go ahead and tell the people where you are right now, not physically, but in regards to where are you in regards to the new Republic of Jackson. Where's that mission at?
Well, the mission is still ongoing. But, salute. I am in Aswan, so I'd like to say salute to everybody from Aswan, Egypt, Black Egypt, the real Egyptians, the builders of Kemet, if you want to call it that, the more accurate name. As far as Republic of Jackson, of course, is an initiative that we started last year once I found out about the situation where the State Legislature of Mississippi was taking power away from basically citizens of Jackson, Mississippi. They can't vote for their own judges and prosecutors. They can't vote for, matter of fact, they have a special state police in control, have jurisdiction over the city. and the people felt helpless there in Jackson, Mississippi. But first I ignored it because the mayor came from an organization called the Republic of New Africa, and he knows about the right of self-determination, and he's an attorney as well. So he knew that they don't have to be under the jurisdiction, period, of the state of Mississippi, the county of Hines, or the federal government. But he didn't enact that right of self-determination and mobilize the people behind that. So we went there to let the people know, look, you don't have to be under this new racist legislation. You don't have to be under any legislation of the United States government if you assert your right of self-determination. So we started the Republic of Jackson, which is a movement now for the people to assert their right of self-determination, which we can in any city or anywhere we are majority at, and take control of affairs ourselves. So that's where we're still mobilizing right now. And of course, they wrote about that in that article in Politico, call it the future of disinformation, this time in Mississippi. And then the first sentence calls it a glimpse of the future of information warfare, because this is information war. It's not disinformation, because human rights is not disinformation. If I'm talking about disinformation, then that means the whole United States, nothing exists, because it means human rights, international law doesn't exist. But they call it a future of information war because it's easy to replicate, as they said in the articles, they said in the intelligence report, United States government intelligence report, that what I am doing is easily replicable and it can destabilize the country, populations around the nation, because populations, meaning the Black population, can easily assert their right of self-determination. And there you go. We control 1,200 or so areas where we are a majority. So they call that the future of information war. And that is the future. We all are involved. You know as well as anybody listening that's conscious that the main part of warfare is information. Disinformation, or misinformation, or just true and factual information. We, of course, are using true information of the rights that we have, because nobody knows we have a right of self-determination. You go to any grocery store, go to your whatever local church or local organization, you ask 10 people, have they ever heard of the right of self-determination? I can guarantee you 10 times out of 10, they have never heard of that right. So we are giving the people information. Look, you have a right of self-determination. Instead of mobilizing to complain, instead of mobilizing to even vote within this system, you can mobilize and have your own vote. And now you control where you live. And if we knew that, if the population knew that, of course it would destabilize America's control over us. But the objective is not to destabilize America, it's to stabilize Black people, because we are already destabilized. We don't know where we're going to be living next month. I think it's the first of the month now. Some of us we got to get ready to move because we can't pay the bills. We got to find out how we're going to pay the light bill, car notes, etc. We are not stable. But if we asserted our right of self-determination, then we can stabilize ourselves.
So in the article, they did say the future of disinformation. I wanted to ask you, they started right off the bat with Jackson, Mississippi in Ramsey units, right? So just want to ask you, have you been to Jackson, Mississippi recently?
No, we haven't been.
So they're basing this off the time when I met you out there last year, right? Wow.
Yes.
And so they really are stretching. They really are stretching. And the only other, where we are here, the only other case that they quoted was some guy who posted something about Texas secession, saying that was also a Russian influenced, right?
These things are not Russian influenced, but Russia, of course, would benefit from independence or secession going on in America. So they will push the narrative themselves. So they were saying that the Russians were promoting that movement in Texas, just like America itself. When they see some destabilization or destabilizing activities going on in a nation that they don't like, and they know that destabilization movement, or what's considered whatever independence movement that may destabilize their enemy, they of course promote it, even advocate for it, because it will weaken their enemy. And of course, Black independence, white secessions, white separation, infighting within America, of course, that weakens the position of America, because if you're having problems in your own home, you can't go and cause problems in anybody else's home. So they will benefit from these types of moves.
So it says here,
Russia,
it says here that last year units tried to drum up support for a similar separatist movement in Detroit, and has touted support from Russia on its Facebook page. It said logically researchers who specialize in tracking disinformation networks across social media platforms like Telegram and Facebook say these online campaigns follow a pattern they've seen in Africa, where the Kremlin is stoking anti-colonial sentiment against Western powers. Anti-colonial sentiment. Is that a good thing, Ramzu, or is that a bad thing?
Anti-colonial sentiment itself is natural. It's natural to have a sentiment about something, whether it be good or bad. If you're treating me well, then I have a great sentiment about you. I have a pro-Okoti Tamar sentiment. If you're treating me bad, then I have an anti-Okoti Tamar sentiment. So the same thing concerning nations and peoples. Africa is continuously exploited by the same colonial powers that say they let them be independent, but they only let them be independent so they can still control the economy of these countries. And the masses of people in Africa suffer. A couple of leaders, the leadership, of course, they share a little bit of the wealth with the colonizers who still control the economy. Well, the African population, they're tired of watching their leaders and their families wax rich while the masses still suffer, only because the leadership is allowing the French to punk them, basically, and take all of the resources. So the masses are saying, okay, we're going to stop that. And if the leadership is continuously being puppets, then we're going to overthrow the leadership, whatever it takes. We're not going to go into fill this whole century up with neocolonialism again while we're suffering with all of these resources. So they have an anti-colonial sentiment. They have an anti-colonial sentiment because all of the leaders that did rise up to try to equal the playing field and give the people some justice, let the people benefit from their own resources, they were murdered. They were toppled. Look at what happened to their great leader, the great African leader, not the Libyan leader, the African leader, Muammar Gaddafi. He had a great plan for Africa. He was already financing many development projects across Africa. They killed this man. So that automatically, if you're killing my leaders that have a great plan for me, if you're keeping me in poverty and killing those who try to take me out of poverty, I have an anti-sentiment against you, an anti-sentiment towards you.
So I want to give you a fair chance to respond or not to Mr. Nick Bakovic's statement. He was one of the lead researchers that researched, I guess, your activity on Facebook and also social media platforms through Logic, right? I didn't even know that they were on Telegram that way. I thought Telegram was relatively safe and encrypted, but I guess not. But anyway, so I want to give you an opportunity to respond to him when he says that Eunice's blatant pro-Russia claims and focus on reaching untapped U.S. audiences with anti-West messaging is an easily replicable framework that could snowball and potentially destabilize populations across the country. Is that your intent, to destabilize populations across the country?
My intent is to stabilize populations. You see our promotions are things such as an ending to police brutality. We promote an ending to wrongful convictions. We promote an ending to gentrification and homelessness through the action of asserting the right of self-determination via a vote. So that's to stabilize Black people. But if you are built off of Black people being wrongfully convicted, being brutalized by police, being in poverty, being homeless, not even being allowed to enjoy the American dream of having a house, if you are benefiting from that, then you are stable while we are destabilized or in a condition of destabilization. Now, once we try to stabilize that by telling the people, look, you have a right to take power and control your own destiny, to control the housing situation, Now, of course, those who benefit from our destabilizing, now they become destabilized because they live off of our blood. So when we stop the blood from being drained, then they consider themselves destabilized. But there's nothing in our messaging. You can go to all of our websites and there's nothing saying, let's go and destabilize America. No, let's say, let's create a stable life for Black people. You know, so they are combing all social media networks and Telegram. Those groups are open to the public. So they're not getting into a secret group. Those groups are open groups that invite people to listen to the information, whether it be on Telegram or WhatsApp or wherever. So they can easily join in and listen to the information. But I challenge them to interview me as well. Let's sit down in a live interview and you show me any disinformation. Show it to me. There's no disinformation anywhere. There's no promotion of Russia. We're promoting the fact that Black people have human rights. It's a human rights promotion.
And speaking of promotions, I see that you're going to be one of the guest speakers on the panel at the National Reparations Convention 2024 that's taking place in May 17th through the 19th in Washington, D.C. And so I want to go ahead and play this video and then we'll get your response on the other side.
Are you passionate about reparations and the self-determination of Black people? Then mark your calendars for the event of the year. The National Reparations Convention 2024 is coming to Washington, D.C. on May 17th, 18th, and 19th. At the historic Lincoln Temple United Church, located at 1701 11th Street Northwest. This convention is a uniting force, bringing together grassroots organizations, scholars, legislators, and activists from the reparations movement. Get ready for 3 action-packed days filled with insightful town hall meetings, engaging panel discussions, and collaborative working sessions. Acquire valuable insights from experts in the field of reparations, human rights, and self-determination. For more information, visit our website at www.nationalreparationsconvention.com.
And so, Ramzu, can you tell the listening audience what can they expect to hear, a little bit of what they can expect to hear from you at the convention in Washington, because probably many of us may not be able to make it. What can we expect to hear from you?
I mean, my message is always the same. I pray that I'm allowed to be there. I don't know if I'll be able to make it. I hope they don't try to come up with any indictments against me because of these latest investigation reports by them, but everything is legal, so of course they can't lawfully do that. But my message would be the same. You know, we're just pushing for self-determination, for people to assert their right, become aware of their right, and to assert it. So my message is always the same: rallying people to take part in this, to become an advocate of human rights themselves amongst their peers, amongst their community. And that's what my message is always the same. It's nothing, there'd be a novel message from me at this event that's different than what I'm saying right here on your broadcast.
And then, so then there's also the Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. Are you familiar with that organization?
Permanent Forum on People of African Descent. I can't say I've ever heard of that.
Let's watch this video. And apparently this is a video from the first session. Let's see, what is the A?
I've heard of that movement, AFRI. I think it's like All for Reparations.
Yes, that's exactly what this is. And so it comes from that. And they had this video I'm about to show is from the first session. Well, the second session is coming up in April as well. So let's go ahead and watch this together. And I'll get your opinion on the other side.
What we are doing is creating the beginning of a movement that we think is going to make a major difference for millions of people who are seeking human rights throughout the African diaspora and on the African continent.
We have an opportunity to bring large numbers of people of African descent that have been working to protect and promote to realize the rights of people of African descent for years. They've been longing for this space since Durban, 2001.
Hace 20 años, uno de los grandes logros que logró el pueblo afrodescendiente fue Durban. Autodenominados como afrodescendientes fue el gran logro. Y ahora, después de 20 años, lograr crear un foro permanente para los afrodescendientes de una forma marca todo este proceso de lucha.
Es una conquista del movimiento afro organizado y sobre todo genera una nueva esperanza para que el foro permanente sea un instrumento de presión y de promoción de nuestros derechos al interior del sistema de Naciones Unidas, pero también hacia afuera, hacia nuestros países.
Gives the opportunity for people of African descent themselves to say what they want, and not for the UN and others, or even governments, to assume what they want.
Donc nous voulons au moins vivre avec dignité, et cette pandémie que l'on appelle le racisme, j'espère qu'un jour on viendra à bout, même des personnes qui pensent que ça n'existe pas.
Especially for the diaspora to hear so many different experiences that are similar, but also how we can learn with each other.
The challenge for us as people of African descent is that we feel while this issue remains on the agenda, there's been little to no progress. We still face systemic, institutional discrimination in our everyday lives.
We're going to be around for 20 years and 20 years after that and 20 years after that. So, maybe 100 years from now, they're going to look back to today as the beginning of something that was a really positive thing for people of African descent around the world.
So basically, my brother, that is the permanent forum on people of African descent. I had never heard of it, and they're being I guess housed under the UN. What do you think about that?
My sister, I wish I could be positive about that, but there's nothing positive that I can speak about forums, permanent forums. That's all we're going to be, is a permanent forum, permanently on our knees, talking about our problems. You heard in the video, the sister just said that there's been little to no progress. That was since Durban, 2001. I was there in that conference. I was part of the youth forum in that conference in Durban, South Africa in 2001. I didn't travel there just for that. I was already in South Africa, in Durban, matter of fact. So I went to the forum. So listen, she admitted nothing has happened since 2001. The brother just said at the end of the video, we'll be here 20 more years, 20 more years, 20 years after that, 20 years after that, 100 years, and we're still a forum. You're calling yourself a permanent forum. I like to say, look, we are a temporary forum. We're getting together. This time we're going to cause an action. If this action is not respected, then it's going to be a permanent war until we are join our rights. But you have to engage in actions that you can declare such things and effective actions. Having forums does nothing. Having forums talking about you want them to recognize your rights. They mentioned recognizing. They already recognize our rights at the UN. It's up to us to assert those rights. And if there's any opposition or forcible denial of our rights, then we have to do what we have to do. See, other people, just like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights says in its preamble, we have to use progressive measures to make sure our rights are acknowledged. We are able to enjoy our human rights. Evidently, these permanent forums are not effective. Evidently, these conferences, like that World Conference Against Racism in Durban in 2001, I was barely growing hair on my face. I now can grow a full beard with grays in it right now. And we haven't effected any change. So I don't like forums. I don't even like the convention that I'm invited to speak at, because we're having too many conventions. Our convention should be a constitutional convention, or a convention after we have taken power in order to implement a way forward or execute a way forward. not to keep on meeting. And we call our success the fact that Durban was full of people. That was a success. The fact that the People's Forum and all these forums are full of participants, that's a success. No, the success is the fact that we don't need any more conventions. We don't need any more permanent forums. So I can't say anything positive about a forum. I can't say anything positive about a convention because we already been having conventions and we already consistently continue to be in the same condition. So what are the forums doing? These people are comfortable. They can afford a ticket to South Africa to stay in a hotel, or a ticket to Geneva, a ticket to somewhere else, and to stay in a hotel, eat every day, comfortably at restaurants, saying they advocate for us while they're talking comfortably while we're in the ghettos, while we're being evicted out of our homes, while we're suffering. Stop the conferencing. Tell us what we can do that can effect change, or we die trying. So I can't say anything positive about any convention, any forum that we've been having for countless years.
So I guess that my next question was that, because see, brother, this is my thing. We have so many different factions, so many different organizations, right? And so just like a great oppressor will do is implement the old rule of divide and conquer. And I'm starting to feel like even that's what's happening as we discuss the right to self-determination and as we discuss reparations, because it seems like it's a ball of confusion with all the different organizations, including all the different self-claimed nations who of nations, not just organizations, but nations. So it's so confusing. So can you tell me a little bit about, or do you know about the National African American Reparations Commission? No,
I don't know much about these commissions, but what I keep seeing and reading about these commissions, first of all, they are commissions to study reparations. If you look up reparations, what reparations really means, and of course the root word of it is repair. And even in their guidelines on what, see, the United Nations and the nations of the United Nations came up with a resolution called the Guidelines and Principles Concerning Reparations, Remedy and Reparations. And that document and resolution is used to guide us to knowing what reparations is, so that we won't be fooled about reparations. And even inside that guidelines, it says that these governments should educate their public on what reparations really is. But our public, meaning us, we're being misled into thinking reparations means a check. Or reparations even means some benefits, some grants, or some whatever they're talking about that benefit Black people, still within the construct of being minorities in America. But the document says reparations means self-determination. We have to be put back into the condition we were in before, restored back to that place that we were in before the violation. So the number one component of reparations, first of all, is allowing Black people to be self-determined, giving us our own self-government. And none of these commissions are meant to be a distraction against the real reparations, against us having some power. So I think about these commissions, they are a weak form, or matter of fact, a deception to what reparations is, and they are very weak, to say the least.
Okay, so I mean, you did not miss words on that one.
Why are we continuously begging for reparations when it's a right? Why do we organize ourselves to assert that reparations? Number one, assert that right of self-determination. Then we can repair ourselves. Reparations is in our hands. It's not in the enemy's hands to give us. It's in our hands to give ourselves. But when we start asking and create commissions within the government to petition, to pressure for reparations, then we already defeated ourselves by forming a commission.
So do you think that that plebiscite vote is still very much needed to move us towards that direction?
Of course, we've been having plebiscites or referendums since 2016, because that's needed. People's will must be expressed. Now, those who are holding the plebiscite or the referendum, now it's up to them. What are you going to do with the people's will? What are you going to do with it? If the people give you 50 million votes, what are you going to do? Are you going to go say, look, you win, we got 50 million votes. Please make the United States do right by us. Please, so Mr. Biden, we got 50 million votes. Will you do right by us? They're not going to do right by us, because they already acknowledged that they are doing wrong. The United Nations has already acknowledged these things. Now we're supposed to take those votes and say, look, here in Jackson, Mississippi, here in Atlanta, here in Detroit, here in Baltimore, here in Chicago, or Southside, whatever part is black in whatever city we are in, we are now taking over this part right here. We are now establishing our own police force. We're now establishing our own government. We control this. Police, you should not be seen anymore patrolling this particular area or these parameters on this territory. That's what we have to do with the vote. But I know many intend not to do that. Even if they had 50 million votes, they would still take that power and bow down with that power, actually give that power to the United States government, give it to the UN and say, look, can y'all please make the decision for us? Nobody can make you enjoy your rights. It's something that we have to assert. Nobody can say, oh, you got a freedom of speech or right to remain silent, and then when the police stop me, they got to come and just shut my mouth for me. No, so I have to shut my own mouth because I have a right to remain silent, etc. And that goes with any right we have. We have a right of self-determination. They can't make us start governing ourselves. We have to just start governing ourselves. And if they oppose us, then we do what we have to do against that opposition. This thing is simple, but when you add the element of fear, that makes everything complicated because of fear. And our organizations are filled with fear. The leadership is filled with fear. So the leadership is filled with fear. The followers are subdued, even if they are courageous. Their courageousness or courage is subdued by the fear of leadership. That's the purpose of controlled opposition is. So right now, all of our organizations that I know of is controlled opposition because of fear. They're controlled by fear.
So what about this organization? You said you're familiar with this one. It's all for reparations and emancipation. This particular piece was published on November 11, 2023, and it says here that the United Nations Commission on Human Rights is subcommission on the promotion and protection of human rights, and its working group on minorities recognize the unique concerns for us as a people whose human rights have been denied and violated for centuries. These violations, slave trade, colonialism, institutional slavery, de jure and de facto racism, indiscrimination, forced assimilation, and ethnocide. These are the charges, Brother Ramzu, that the All for Reparations Emancipation organization is saying that the UN is recognizing. And so if they are recognizing, many are saying that the UN, yes, the UN has recognized it, but the UN does not have any weight. So that goes to what you're saying, that they can't make the United States government give us anything. But it's sad that a lot of people do not know that the UN has acknowledged the fact that, yes, minorities such as Afro-descendants are due reparations. Thus says this particular article here when you read that. So is this group All for Reparations and Emancipation? Is there a legitimate group that we should watch and monitor, since they are working and reporting to this other group here, Permanent Forum on People of African Descent?
All of our groups, I think many of them, if not all of them, have noble intent. If the intent is reparations for Black people, then that's a noble intent. Now, what is your methods? What are the procedures that you advocate for us to achieve these reparations? That's where the problem may lie. If your methods or the way that you push for people, encourage people to move forward to achieve these things, if it's to rely on the UN, then your organization is impotent. Because now your production or your success is based on the decision or actions of the UN, when you have a right yourselves to implement those things. United Nations acknowledge that Israel is a settler criminal state. They acknowledge that Israel is engaged in genocide as we speak. They acknowledge that the occupation is illegal. They've been acknowledging that for decades. Has anything been done for decades? Nothing has been done. So these organizations are the same thing. We just acknowledging and getting them to acknowledge this, which they already have acknowledged. But now what are we going to do about it? Hamas and others in the Palestinian territory, occupied territory, they said, okay, y'all been acknowledging it for years. But we do have a right to defend ourselves. We do have a right to resist the occupation. So we're going to resist the occupation. And that's what they're doing. They're resisting the occupation. So now, when are we going to start resisting the occupation? So these groups, if you're not pushing and organizing resistance against America's occupation, against America's violations, then what are you existing for? To continue to beat a dead horse? So that's my opinion on these organizations. These are noble organizations. They have noble intent. But for me, the person that's most noble is the person that will lay his life on the line to really protect my life. Not the person who will shout out for me. That's a good thing. You're shouting out for me. You're screaming that I'm treated wrong. But if you actually put your life on the line to try to stop that, now that's what's really noble. So these organizations have noble intent, but I don't see any noble actions.
Yeah, that's what I've been hearing lately, that, you know, a lot of people are afraid to die or are afraid to lose what they have. But like, I guess they're comfortable in their captivity. If that's your greatest fear, fearing losing what you have, when you could fight for so much more, if not for you yourself, maybe for your generations after you. So that's the main thing that I think that we have to very, as a people, put in check. Check your fear at the door. We got work to do. We definitely have work to do. So I do want to, you know, go back again to the conference, that's the convention that's happening in May. Something like that on that level, I have not witnessed since I've been paying attention, since I say about 2018 is when I really started paying attention to what was happening to our people. And so do you think that this may be the start of a wake-up call for a lot of us, conservative, liberal, and alike, being is that people who normally participate in elections really don't have a good candidate to vote for, other than a candidate that they're saying don't stand a chance, and that candidate just is going to happen to be he's on the docket to be on the panel as a guest speaker in Washington, and that's Dr. Cornel West. Do you think that individuals should definitely be engaged in this convention that's taking place as a show of force, that maybe we can possibly put someone in the White House that has our best interest in mind?
Anything that involves the American in participating in the American electoral system is counter-revolutionary. Counter. So why would I be having a convention on my independence from this system, then have somebody come and speak to me about depending on the system and participating in the system? That's counter-revolutionary. So I wouldn't vote for anybody. I wouldn't vote for my own father if he ran for the American presidency. America is a democratic system controlled by the majority. Majority happens to be people who have different interests than us. So if Cornel West became the president, he'll be powerlessness if he tries to do something that's in Black interest, just like Kamala Harris said when she was being interviewed during her candidacy or her run for campaigning. Just like what Barack Obama said, he can't do anything just for Black people because they represent a white nation. And there's something in political science called tyranny of the majority. Everybody that's listening, please look up that term, tyranny of the majority. And it's defined in their political science as an inherent weakness or error in democracy, because the majority will always get what it wants, even against the interests of the minority. So it's akin to tyranny or oppression. So if tyranny is natural, it's automatic in a system, in a democracy. If you're the minority, if you're automatically going to be oppressed, then why would I participate in a system where I'm automatically going to be oppressed? Their own political science teaches me that I'm automatically going to be oppressed. Why would I vote for a black representative of a system that's going to automatically oppress me? Why would I, as a black man, run to be the oppressor himself or sit in the seat of leadership of something that's going to oppress my people automatically? Why don't I use my popularity if I'm Cornel West to let the people know that, look, you can have another vote. Vote for me in this vote while we assert our right of self-determination and we take over where we live. Why would I counter my move for self-determination and promote somebody that's running for the self-determination and the denial of our self-determination? I wouldn't participate in anything like that. I wouldn't promote anything like that just for popularity. So that means you're promoting independence, and at the same time, you're promoting to be dependent and being subjected to the same system that's oppressing you.
So
make that make sense. Make that make sense. You're having a rally, a vegan, vegetarian, vegan, no eat meat rally, and you invite a person that's running to be chairman of the slaughterhouse for cows, or the board of cow raisers around cattlemen around America. Why would I do that? Just because he's popular. Come on, we got to get real with this thing, man. This thing is, we got to take off these kid gloves. We got to stop trying to be popular. Revolution is not popular. And it's not being promoted by the media and popular like that. Of course, in the people's mind, they want to change. And if we have their attention, then we have to tell the people how they can get change. And it's not through Cornel West.
So a Cornel West that's representing the people as a nation of people, right? That's how you. So let me back up. Let me ask you the question this way: in order for us to achieve self-determination, there has to be a collective effort. Am I correct on that? Correct?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
All right. So if there have to be a collective effort, then there have to be some type of way of governing the people. Mm-hmm. So an individual such as a Cornel West would be ideal for governing a nation that was separate from the United States of America. Am I right?
Yeah, our own nation, not governing them on our behalf.
Our own nation, exactly. So,
even the idea, first of all, there are many people that are way less known to him. They may even be city council, may have served on government in city council positions. They are way more qualified than Cornel West. But yes, I would vote for the brother if we had an election. It depends on who he runs against. Yeah, so but he's qualified as far as his sentiment and his intellect. It qualifies him. His experience doesn't qualify him. But go ahead.
So that leads me to the next question. And Brother Major and I spoke about this in the first hour. Identifying individuals who want to take on the role of leadership in the individual cities where we are the majority, and forming what for lack of better words, forming a Congress where those individuals then elect an individual that would be what I say tantamount to the spokesperson for the nation. Is that where we need to go? Is that what we need to aspire to, that direction? Because we're all saying we want reparations, and we want to be separate. We want to be self-governing. We want to be self-determined. But no people can be self-determined without some type of governing body. Mm-hmm. So are we ready to move into that type of arena, since we're all going to be, gathering virtually in one location or whatever, identifying those individuals that's ready to take on that?
I mean,
are we there yet?
We've been there. We had a black president, we got black congressmen, we got black mayors, we got black governors, we got black everything. We're definitely ready to do that. And we have to acknowledge, if we go back in history, it was a point in time where government was minimal as far as number of people doing that. Even now, the system really runs itself. It's rules and regulations that are there to run these systems without a lot of people on the payroll collecting taxpayers' dollars to be governing. Even part of the American federal government, they're pushing to minimize government themselves. because you don't need that much government. You don't need that. But as far as Black people being ready, we've been ready for that. You know, and that's like asking Harriet Tubman anyway, are you ready to run away from the plantation? Anywhere is better than this. Anywhere is better than being on this plantation suffering. So I'd rather face the forest. I don't know what I'm going to eat tomorrow. I don't know what I'm going to run into, but I know I'm going in a direction that's definitely not the same as being on this plantation and suffering the ills of slavery.
Well, brother, I do appreciate you taking the time to speak with me today, as well as considering going to the convention and lending your voice. I think that when people get a chance to hear the fire in your speech, then you can change minds. I think that your voice is very much needed in this fight for reparations and the right for self-determination, because reparations can come in the form of just taking control of where you reside, especially in those towns and cities where we are the majority and we sit on the majority of the city council, and just that we won't be under the government of the United States, we'll be under some other constitution of a united people, Black people, right? Is that what you're thinking?
Yes,
Wherever we are?
naturally, it would be under our own dominion. We'll create our own policies, and it's something simple. That is reparations. There's no such thing as reparations. Only in the deceptive definition, I call, that we've been led to understand as reparations, is reparations being cut a check. And even in the America's definition of reparations, their definition comes from the international system. They signed this resolution on guidelines and principles of what reparations really is. Reparations must include, the foremost part of reparations is being self-governing. Without that, there's no reparation. There's just a bit of superficial adjustment going on with giving everybody a check to stimulate the power of those who oppress us. Because that's all we're going to do with that check, is stimulate their power.
Right. So towns like Dalton, Illinois, 20,000 people, majority African Americans. That's like a city that's right to be handled and
indeed
and seized upon. So I you say that we have these individuals that are ready to serve. I'm hoping that after May we have a government in place.
I mean, the government is provisional anyway. So we have a government. These people, they're already governing themselves anyway. Self-determination is whatever status or whatever entity or whatever form that the people choose. The people can also choose to just be in a wild, wild west situation where there's no government. They can choose that as well. Of course, the people will want to have some kind of order, but we are definitely ready to do that. We're just scared ourselves. We're just scared to do it. And it's difficult to achieve something when you have those who are comfortable in leadership positions, because they are really comfortable in their position. That's why the scripture says it's harder for a rich man to enter the kingdom of God than it is for a camel to pass through the eye of a needle. The rich man is benefiting from the kingdom of Satan. So why would he really want to go all out and risk his wealth inside the kingdom of Satan in order to push and establish a kingdom where his wealth is unknown? He hasn't lived in that kingdom. So his subconscious itself, or her subconscious itself, would be dictating the actions that they take towards something they claim that they are about. My subconscious, if I'm living comfortably, my subconscious, which controls my cognitive functions, is going to say, Ramsey, you don't even think about doing anything that's going to risk this mansion you're living in. Do not risk anything that can stop this $500 an hour that I'm making. Do not risk, do anything that can end this life that this mind and this brain is inside of. So they're not going to risk it. That's why even when Dr. King and them had the Poor People's Campaign, they was talking about it's imperative that we at least appear to be poor, you know, because only the poor can represent the poor fully. You can't feel my pain. How you going to represent me and you don't feel the foot on my neck? Matter of fact, you are wearing the same shoes as the foot that's on my neck is wearing. So it's difficult for rich leadership, comfortable and so-called intellectual, collegiate leadership to lead the poor people. Not saying that they can't, but oftentimes it's the masses of poor people that are suffering. That suffering produces its own leader, not the college of the enemy producing a leader for you, not the economy of your oppression producing a leader for you. So that's why it's difficult in many movements, because if you take away the bread of all of these leaders, I'm sure we'll have a revolution tomorrow.
Yeah, of course. That's why it's very important that we plan boycotts to make them feel the brunt.
No, we need to boycott our leaders. We need to boycott our leaders. Don't give them any more money. Don't let your leader coast off onto the graveyard wearing a $20,000 suit. Don't do that. Make him hungry and see what he would do. See how he would lead you or she would lead you. If she's hungry, if he's hungry, he's going to lead you in the correct way. But if you're making your leader comfortable, your leader has no incentive to lead you fearlessly, courageously, and put his life or her life on the line.
Well, we keep voting for the same. We keep voting for the same people over and over and over again, and never come up with the bag. In other words, is what I'm saying.
That's all we know. That's all we know. We don't know about self-determination. That's why they say this is the future of information warfare. That's what that article said. This is the future. What we're doing right now, spreading the knowledge of the right of self-determination. If anybody in 2024, if you're not talking about before that, but I'm saying now in 2024 because that's currently. If you're not talking about self-determination, if you're not advocating self-determination, if you're not elaborating and enlightening the people to self-determination, then you are impotent. You are useless for our people.
You know what happens? Well, just say, for instance, what do you think would happen if no African American participated in the general election?
What would happen?
Yeah.
I mean, the same thing would happen. They will vote. They will have a leader that's there that do the same thing that all leaders always do. All of the leaders of the American so-called free world, they do the same thing. All of them. Like we see now what's going on in the Palestinian territory, Democrats and Republicans, they all are backing the genocide. So they would do the same thing. But it will make the elections seem illegitimate. If you look up legitimacy concerning elections, the more participants that the elections have, the more legitimate it looks. In some countries, the population who don't agree with the government, they won't participate in the election because it legitimizes it. So Black people should have never been participating in America's electoral politics because now we're saying this system is good. We're participating in it. We agree with it. We have faith in it. And where has our faith led us? Where are we right now? We've been voting for a long time. Martin Luther King said that in 1967 in Frogmore, South Carolina, during a strategy meeting with his organization. He said, look, we've moved from civil rights to human rights. We've gone from reform to revolution. He said, look, after Selma, after the voting rights bill, that didn't happen, didn't work, didn't effect any change. So now we must move into an era of revolution. After Dr. King died, his own comrades in his organization, they didn't carry the revolution forward. They remained civil rights reformists. Some of them even joined the government that killed their comrade. So this whole electoral politics thing, that's a cop-out. That's a compromise to our struggle. And of course, it will net no results.
And the Congressional Black Caucus is a joke because they're there year after year after year after year, and nothing happens for the betterment of our people. So I'm starting to believe that they're just there to I guess you could say appease the people, to keep the people from uprising.
There it is. They're controlled opposition. The Black Caucus is nothing but a smokescreen to make Black people think, look, we do have some representatives in the system of America's governance. We do have some people that advocate for us, but they are weak. They can't do anything besides mimic what's told to them. That Black Caucus, by the way, is the same Black Caucus that condemned Brother Khalid, Dr. Khalid Muhammad. John Lewis, all them Negroes stood up there and condemned this man for speaking the truth. Why? Because their controllers condemned him. So they're not advocates for Black people. They don't represent Black people.
They're
There
told
to
what
look
to
like
say.
black people have some representation, but that's weak representation. First of all, there's no strong representation in a democracy unless that people are part of the majority. And they don't represent the majority population. So what are they representing?
Right.
It's
right
all
about
mathematics. We were taught in the Nation of Islam that everything's mathematics. It don't add up. Democracy is a numbers game. Majority rules. If you're not part of the majority, then you lose out. That's simple mathematics. You can't be equal when you're not an equal number of people. So how do we have equality?
Yeah, that sounds like when they say we got to do something for the American people in the minorities. You catch that?
They
The
don't have to do
American
it.
people in the minorities, that's saying that if you're a minority, you're not really an American citizen, but you're a special class where we have to have special civil rights laws passed for you because you're not a part of this Constitution, but we'll just give you these amendments to appease you to so that you can continue to be the worker bee and continue to participate in this farce that we call an election, but it's really a selection because you only have two choices, red or blue. So what are we doing here? Are we going to continue to participate in what we know to be a game, a scam, a sham called an election? You know, I really did say Cornel West. Maybe that is a viable choice. But then I got to thinking that even if he was president, he can't do reparations. Even if he did win, we still need representatives in the Congress to vote for reparations before it could even get to a Cornel West's desk. So that's why I was saying, you're saying remove yourself from the system altogether, and find those individuals within our like-minded individuals to be in leadership position to take over when we're collectively ready. That's your position.
Yeah, we are collectively ready. You can't ask if I'm collectively ready to eat when I'm starving. I'm always ready to eat. I'm always ready to serve myself if the food is there and serve my people who are starving right along with me.
So why aren't we doing what you're saying?
We don't know. Like they said in the article, it's an information war. We don't have this information. And those who have the influence are not pushing this information. How many followers does Ramsey YouTube page have? Less than 1,000. How many followers does these other influencers have? Millions. Are they talking about self-determination? Are they talking about what the American government admits its biggest threat is? They're not talking about what is a threat to the existence of America. They're concerned with their influence checks that come from YouTube. So it's an information war. They just told us that. This is information. So unless our people know we have a right of self-determination, they're not going to stand up for that. And the influencers may know, but it's not popular for them to talk about self-determination. It's more popular for them to kick this empty knowledge so that we can continue to be donkeys carrying books on our backs. A whole bunch of knowledge, but we still just a beast of burden and a subject to somebody else's system. So people have to know this, then they will do. So tell your influencers to talk about self-determination. Stop talking about these empty topics that do not serve our benefit, do not serve Black people.
Do you agree with those that say that we should be looking to Africa for our safety position rather than staying in Babylon? United States of America that we know is going to collapse here in the near future?
Worst case scenario, and that's what the purpose, one of the main benefits from being independent in America, is having our own areas of safety. Because when the enemy strikes, and of course the enemy is always looking for the chance to topple the world power, who's not just a world power, a world beast, a world oppressor. So now when they get ready to drop bombs, if you are amongst them, then you're going to suffer the consequences. So we have to be in our own areas and say, look, don't bomb Jackson, Mississippi. We're your ally. We against this beast too. We're independent. We have nothing to do with them murdering Palestinians. We have nothing to do with them murdering Congolese people. We have nothing to do with them murdering people in South America, in Asia. We're not part of that. So when you strike them, look at these parameters of where we live. We are the Republic of Detroit. Don't bomb Detroit. We are the Republic of Jackson. So it's at least we should assert our right of self-determination to be distinguished. That's why the Bible says, come out of her, my people. Come out of her. It don't necessarily mean you have to leave her physically.
Right.
But yeah, you leave her physically by exiting their system of governance, and now you're no more part of her. The American founder fathers, I like in their Declaration of Independence, they described what separation is. It says separation is cutting the political ties to it. So now we're no longer part of your system. There's many wars where the territory, a certain territory or area is being bombed, but a certain part of that area is protected because those people are in a safe zone. They have nothing to do with the government that's being struck by others. So we have to do the same. But if we can, of course, and we're eventually going to have to leave it to get out of America, because once it's burning, the fire, the fumes, the smoke, you're going to have to be in a zone away from that smoke as well. So that's part of why we are in Africa doing certain things now, trying to establish a place for us to go when we do exit America. Because if we believe in the scriptures, if we believe in justice in general, if we believe in history that we've studied, then it's part of natural progression for an oppressive, for a wicked nation who violates everybody. They're going to fall. They're going to fall.
So the greatest fear is the fear of the unknown. And so I think that's what's wrong, or what's preventing a lot of our people from moving forward with the right to determination, because they don't know what that looks like. They don't know what that feels like. So
but I think,
can you speak to that?
The fear of the unknown is only at leadership, fear and unknown, because they don't know how they're going to be continuously be comfortable with self-determination. Now, regular Black people, we've already faced the unknown because we're immune to that. I don't know where I'm going to be living next week because I can't pay my bill. And we face that all the time as Black people, as the poor Black people. So we already deal with the unknowns. I don't know how I'm going to feed my children next week because I'm already living check to check. And this check has to go toward paying for this house or we're not going to have anywhere to stay. So I'm facing the unknown, that my life is unknown consequences. Our lives as Black people, the masses of Black people, is unknown. So we already immune to the unknown. So we don't care about the unknown. But the leadership that's representing us, they fear the unknown. Because if I'm a leader and I got my followers sending me $1,000 a week, and now in this new system, I don't know what I'm going to be getting a week. Now, I fear that unknown. If I'm now living in a mansion off the back of my followers and the back of being an influencer on social media, if I'm flossing with all these cars, what about social media not being there? Where's my check, my influencer check going to come from then? So I fear that unknown. So I'm not going to talk about self-determination. I'm benefiting from white folks' determination right now. So they fear the unknown. The poor people, we already live in the unknown.
Wow. I wasn't ready for that answer, but that was very candid. I appreciate that, my brother. That's gave me something else to think about, in thinking about that from a different perspective. Everyday people are not that afraid of anything. I mean, we're the biggest risk takers, I believe. And so that's why I felt so strongly about, pushing back hard on saying, oh, well, Cornel West can't win. It just automatically saying he can't win. But that it's that type of grassroots efforts, that sleeping giant per se, that came from out of nowhere kind of thing, because the people that was real actually got behind them. That's the kind of attitude that we need going behind the right to self-determination, as well as these individuals that's trying to do this convention. I do think that we should support them and promote it and make more people aware of it. I wish I could commit to doing something on reparations and self-determination once a week, because it is a hot button topic, and as we move closer to election, people are going to cast a vote one way or the other, and some are going to cast a vote reluctantly just because they feel an obligation. They have an obligation to vote because of what the forefathers or the ancestors have gone through and fought so hard for. So, my brother, what do you think it's going to take for people to understand that self-determination starts with you right there in your neighborhood where you are. I can't say me because my neighbors are like way far apart or whatever, but like in the cities, in the urban cities where you are, what can they start? What can one start doing? Is it the communication with your neighbors a good start to form neighborhood associations, identify brothers that may be able to help patrol or help provide some type of security force for for the neighborhood. Where can people start to assert their right to self-determination in their own individual capacity?
I mean, as individuals, we're nothing but subjects. We only can try to exist on the plantation and continue to be slaves. So that's why I don't acknowledge those type of actions. But as individuals, we already living the best way that we can. You should, communicate with each other, but communicate with each other on a way forward. Communicate with each other dealing with the right of self-determination. Otherwise, we're going to remain subjects. There's nothing going to change. We're just finding a way to exist and live out the best slavery that we can. So the main push for me on the individual level, first of all, find out your rights, and then you discuss that with others. But self-determination is a collective assertion to free and liberate a people. In a way, if you want to say self-determination on an individual level, we're already doing that. We're determined to have a job in this system. We're determined to have relations with our neighbors. I promote the extreme of action because justice is the extreme. So I don't even look at small conversations or efforts that's not really total self-determination myself. So I can't really speak and give any advice on that. Maybe you have to go to the scholars that deal with Black psychology, the Umar Johnson, those who are advocating, dealing with individual cases of psychology, et cetera, like that. But I'm talking about a collective assertion of our right that will liberate us.
I think people are also leery because there's no playbook. Like there's no roadmap. There's no book that says, okay, in the event that the human rights policy officers come and say we're taking over this city, this is what you do next.
Well, there's a roadmap. There's a roadmap. There's been a roadmap. The roadmap is what the United States government did. The roadmap is what we publish ourselves as human rights policy officers. Go to our website. The new one being eastathensgov.us. And there's a roadmap there. We say, look, hold the vote. Have the council to govern. We give everybody a simple roadmap. The roadmap has always been simple. What complicates things and makes things seem difficult is getting over that hurdle called fear. But it's really easy, and we give an easy roadmap. We even got graphs on our Facebook pages, infographics that show you, look, step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5. Because it's very simple. Matter of fact, the United States government had a hearing on self-determination in 2016. And the chairman of that hearing gave the way forward. He said, look, if you want to do this, have a vote on it, and it's adios to the American government. He gave a roadmap forward, and it's only a couple of actions that's needed to be taken. One action mainly. Then after that action, then you follow the steps. Okay, now begin governing yourself. Just like we're doing right now, we're governing ourselves for white people. We're colonies. All over America, we're colonies. Continue doing what we've been doing, but now we control it. And now we got new policies. There's no more paying for houses. So these things are simple. The difficult part is the fear. That's only holding us back. It's the only thing that's holding us back.
Yes, sir. So definitely congratulations on East Athens becoming a republic.
And if you are listening, if you are in that area, if you're in Georgia on March the 23rd, be in East Athens. If you are really concerned about what we're talking about, if you're concerned about Black people, be in East Athens. You may say, well, I don't live in East Athens. Well, East Athens, you're part of East Athens. You're part of the Black people there. And what happens in East Athens, what happened everywhere else. That's why in that report by the government intelligence that was covered by Politico, they said this is easily replicable and it can snowball. So Athens can be the beginning of that snowball. Detroit can be the beginning of that snowball. Jackson can be the beginning of that snowball. They are afraid of that.
This
so if my
this
enemy is
not-
telling me what they are afraid of and what's easily replicable, then I'm going to replicate that.
This is definitely no joke. I mean, come on now. So, in other words, you started in Detroit, you moved to Jackson, now you're in East Athens. And so we just keep going on and on and on. Like I said, Dalton, Illinois, I don't know how you feel about that city.
We do the same. We're doing it everywhere. Like I said, it's replicable. We're replicating it everywhere.
Yeah.
That's what they're afraid of. That's why they came down hard on Detroit. It wasn't just thinking about Detroit. It's because of definitely if it happens in Detroit, which it will, it's going to happen everywhere else because it's going to create a domino effect. Even in that hearing I told you that the United States government had in 2016 on self-determination, the chairman himself said that many in the government, they fear the domino effect. They fear that domino effect.
They feel the domino effect of what will happen if we receive reparations?
No. What if East Athens goes independent? What if Detroit goes independent? Other places are going to say, well, wow, we can do the same thing. All we got to do is have a vote, and now we control the whole city. And now all the housing is free.
And that's what we need. That's exactly what we need. See, all the things that you're saying sounds like, Brother Dr. Cornel West has been listening to you because he's saying the same things. She says, it's no need for people to live in the richest country in the world and be homeless. Not have health care. Not have just basic.
He's trying to solve it in the context of a white power structure.
Right.
Why not solve it in your own structure?
Well, I show
that's where our leadership comes up. These are brilliant brothers.
Right.
Matter of fact, I had a poster one time said Claude Anderson for president.
Yes.
He's brilliant. He's brilliant. But he himself is still talking within the context of American white power, what we can do within white power. Why don't we establish black power? They give us a right to establish black power, Right. But our people don't know that. So we got to let our people know that we have a right to establish black power. Some of the leaders in East Athens, I'm not going to mention any names, but these are illustrious leaders in that community. They are surprised and elated with finding out that, look, they can create at East Athens. But our brilliant leadership don't even know about it. And those that do know about it, they are too afraid to advocate for it. That's why it must be poor people who don't have anything to lose. We don't have anything to lose. I'm part of the poor community. We don't have anything to lose. I don't have a life.
Right.
So what's me risking my so-called life to really try to get a life? Those who seek to save their life shall lose it. And those who really seek to gain their life, heck, we're not living in the first place. We're trying to gain a life. Oppression, as the Quran says, is worse than slaughter. So any natural man would rather die trying than to remain oppressed. Unless you're not really feeling the oppression.
And that's really something for everyone that's listening to consider. Are you willing to stand in the time of oppression to say, and don't bend, don't give in, don't take the easy road out? It's not going to be easy. I'm going to tell you right now, it's not going to be easy. But on the other side of it, it's going to be beneficial for our little short leggers coming up after us.
It'll be beneficial to us immediately. We'll be in immediate heaven. But the thing is, sister, like we go back and watch these shows or read these stories about the plantation. We have Malcolm X's story about the field Negro and the house Negro. See, the field Negro, he's anywhere's better than this. See, it's only the house Negro that's reluctant to go into the unknown. It's the house Negro that's afraid. How many house Negroes you know that participated in slave revolts, that ran? Matter of fact, most of them were the snitches. So, and
my thing is you don't know. You don't know until you try. That's my thing.
No, yes. But like you said, we fear the unknown. That's natural. It's natural to fear the unknown. But those of us who are, like I said earlier, are living in the unknown, we're suffering already. So anywhere is better than today. Tomorrow is always better than today because today I'm in so much pain.
Yeah. Yeah, but we just have to live. We have to be able to live to see tomorrow. That's the point. That's the part right there, that we're doing things that are shortening our lifespan. We're participating in a system that's going to help to contribute to shorten your lifespan.
Indeed.
They're not contributing to a better way of life whatsoever. Stress or debt equals stress. And why are you in debt? Because you're just trying to live. You're just trying to maintain inside of a system that's hell bent on being materialistic and pointing you in the wrong direction as far as priorities for stabilization and for longevity. What we need is to be under a guidance of, or a situation whereby everybody is prospering and you're helping each other along the way. You know, that's community building again. That's so lacking. Like I said, it takes a village to raise a child. Well, it's gonna take us to raise us up, right? Because right now we're behind the 8 ball big time. But I think that the temperature is that we recognize, number one, that these people aren't our friends or not looking out for our best interest, and then number two, I think that we know we have to do something different, but we just don't know. We have not. We kind of like shell shocked because you don't know whether to join this or ride along with this or go along with that. So many choices out there to choose from, and you kind of skeptical. Are you making the right decision when it comes to gravitating to working with your people? It's hard. It's hard to make those decisions, my brother. So, and you know, you've been doing this for quite some time, so you already know that it is hard to convince other people to say, hey, leave this alone and let's try this. It's kind of difficult when there's no there that say, hey, yeah, it works. See, this is point positive that it works. That's what I think people are waiting on, because we're kind of like bandwagon people. When we see that it's working for you over here, then we'll try it over here.
Indeed. That's why we're saying one example, whether it be Detroit, whether it be East Athens, or Jackson, Mississippi. We have to have one example to show the people, because we're not a people that seems to be innovative, not in terms of liberated actions. We're not a people that's like what pioneering as white folks were. They came over to a place they didn't know, all the way across the sea, in the name of liberation away from the system that they were in and new freedoms. They did that. We have been domesticated where we don't even acknowledge that we have a right to do that. And we don't even try to find ourselves or a way to get into that situation, because we are already comfortable in a situation that we have been domesticated in. We don't know anything else, matter of fact. So our job is to let people know these things. Our job is to get on this social media. You're doing a great job yourself with this platform. Let people know, look, you have options out there. They're only acting the way we act because we don't have knowledge. It's information. They said it in that article. It's an information war. What if the people of Ferguson, for instance, knew that they could take over Ferguson and assert their right of self-determination? What would have happened with the tens of thousands of people that were out there? I guarantee you, if they knew they had a right of self-determination, they wouldn't have been on their knees saying, hands up, don't shoot. I guarantee you, those police would have been on their knees saying, hands up, don't shoot. But the people were not equipped with that information. And those of us that may have been out there and had this information, we're not ready to lead that kind of struggle ourselves. So we'll hold back that information and just rally the people in useless actions of protest.
Well, my brother, as usual, it's always a pleasure to speak with you. You're always one that's on point and not afraid to speak your truth. And I appreciate your candidness. Definitely it's given me something else to think about. I'm looking forward to the opportunity, your opportunity to have you met with Dr. West before?
Never met with
Dr. I'm looking forward to you guys meeting and getting to know one another in May. And maybe you could convince him to, change people's minds about participating in their system and come on over to participating in a system that we could create, he can help create on our own. I think that's what he's thinking when he's saying his campaign is a moment in a movement for right to self-determination. He has said that. And so I think that he's pretty much saying that I know I can't win, but at least I want to ruffle some feathers and bring some attention, some awareness to some things. And so from there, maybe we can piggyback off of what he's trying to do, because he at that point, he'll have national attention. And even if he doesn't win, at least he's bringing national attention, national awareness to our people that you do have a right to self-determination and you have a right to reparations. So I'm looking forward to building on that and see where he goes with this now that he is aligned with reparations and the right to self-determination.
Yes, ma'am. Keep hope alive.
Keep hope alive, Black Power. My brother, as usual, you go ahead and tell people what you got coming up next and where we can look for you to pop up next. What you got going on?
Well, the same thing always going on. Like every Thursday, for instance, we have our web conference on the orientation to the right of self-determination. Yeah, I don't know if you have a chat box there. Maybe somebody can share the link, but we're on every Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You know, we'll be in Jackson. If I'm not there, some of our officers will be in East Athens on March the 23rd. You can look out for the information about that. Matter of fact, go to the website that you see on your screen, eastathensgov.us. And of course, you just find me on Facebook. You find me on YouTube, Ramzu Yunus on YouTube, putting out information there. But the best place I would like for people to find me at is on the streets taking action. That's the best place to find me. So look out for where we are announcing that we will be in action, and prayerfully you will join us in action.
So March 23rd, you're going to be in Athens, Georgia?
I doubt that I will make it, but there will be some human rights policy officers on the ground in Athens.
Okay, Roger that. Roger that. And is it a rally or what are we doing on that date?
Well, initially it was going to be a rally, block party rally about the situation there. Now we are turning it into also a referendum where the people can vote, are being mobilized to vote for independence, to assert their right of self-determination. So that's ultimately what it's going to be now in East Athens. So those also, if you want to participate, we do have a hotline you can call and ask how you can participate. And that's 888-999-6530, 888-999-6530. That's our hotline. You can call and speak to human rights policy officers, and they will let you know how to move forward for us participating with us.
That's beautiful. I see Sister Malakia, Comrade Malakia is in the chat. I was hoping that she would drop those links for you. I don't know if she might have left already. But brother, go ahead and give me the link again to the website where you can go to join the
East Athens Gov.us. East Athens Gov.us.
And there was another website you gave me for where you can go and text to get the information for the text reparations. Which website?
I didn't mention that. I don't even know which website. We have reparations.app where we're having our digital vote. We have reparations.app. And we have mypower.app. You click on the Black Independence vote on there. But reparations.app, the registration to reparations.app is a vote, because the only way to guarantee reparations is through self-determination. That's the only way to guarantee it. Now, we can be on our knees for the next 100 years, like they said on that video you played about the forum. We can be on our knees for 100 years, waiting on them to give us reparations, or we could assert our right to grant ourselves reparations. I think the masses would choose to grant themselves reparations instead of being on their knees, because we're on our knees. Those who are representing us, they're sitting in comfortable chairs and on couches and in nice homes. But those who are the masses of poor of us, I think we'd rather give it to ourselves. So participate. Go to reparations.app. That database becomes a power base. See, when we say Black power, when we say all power to the people, that means if the people say something, if it's their will, then you as a personal organization screaming all power to the people, you have to fearlessly represent the people's will. So the people vote and give you a database of people saying, yes, we want to assert our right of self-determination. Now it's up to us, the Black power organizations, etc., to now say, look, based on what the people said, we're now governing this territory. So that's what we will be doing with the numbers that we have. I don't know about others. Others already said that they won't do that. They will take those numbers and get on their knees and say, look, we got some numbers. Please respect it. I don't know about you, but I know about what human rights policy officers are doing. That's what we're doing. So please participate.
Right. And then you said the third app was mypower.app.
.app, mypower.app. Go on there, click on the menu, you'll see Black Independence Vote. There it is.
Roger that. So, my brother, as usual, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. You're always bringing that knowledge and giving us just a fistful of truth. So, with that, I say, may the Most High continue to bless you and keep giving you the strength to speak truth to power. And please do not be a stranger. You know how to reach me. And anytime you want to come back and give us an update, please do. You always have the mic on this platform. You already know that. So I thank you for your contribution on this special edition of Race News, Facts, and Comments on Race, Reparations, and Elections. You've been an outstanding commentator. I appreciate you, my brother, so much. And peace and blessings to you for this coming week and everything you have moving forward. Don't be a stranger. Love you with the love of Yahuwah, my brother. Be safe.
Peace and blessings to yourself and the audience. Love you all.
Shalom, my brother. So thank you all once again, everyone that's in the chat that stayed in and watched. Definitely worth coming back to or starting from the beginning if you missed it from the beginning. This was a very powerful discussion on reparations and voting and all of that good stuff. Reparations, voting, and race. How do we measure up? Are we going to continue to allow them to pander to us? Are we going to continue to just waste our time in these lines voting for individuals that we know are not going that first of all that we don't know? Half the time we're just straight voting down party lines. It don't matter if they're on the Republican ticket, you just go straight Republican, or if they're on the blue ticket, you just go straight blue down the line without even researching these individuals, right? So I say stop doing that. Stop living recklessly like that. If anything, I would say, if you don't want to do the research, don't just throw your vote behind somebody that you don't know. I think that that's very immature, and I think it's a total waste of time. So just consider that as you're thinking about the 2024 elections. I'm a firm believer that you need to research individuals that's going to be so-called collecting a state tax, a state check, because you are paying their salaries as state representatives. So I would think that you would want to know who you're employing, who you are saying is going to represent you. And I would definitely give some pushback to these individuals who are claiming that, they're representing our best interests just for a vote on both sides, Republican and Democrat, because I do feel like right about now they are pandering for the Black vote, and our vote is so powerful, but how will we use that power? How will we translate that vote into something meaningful for us as a nation of people moving forward? I think we could change the way that they think about us as a voting bloc. I think that we could really shock them by either one, voting independently if you insist on voting. But I do think we need to come together collectively to decide what we're going to do as a nation of people. Are we going to participate or not? I think that's the only way that we can make a great enough impact, is that we make these decisions as a group of people rather than individuals. Even though voting is an individual choice, I'm just saying, as a nation of people that has been discriminated against and oppressed for so long, I think that we need to make a decision whether or not we want to continue to participate, or are we going to pull out all together and do our own thing? That is a question that only we can answer, and we're all going to find out how they're going to come out in the wash come November 2024. But they're just betting on you to bet on them to change your life. I say bet on yourself and bet on your nation of people. So with that being said, as usual, I love you all with the love of Yahuwah. Thank you for watching NFNC Sunday Rap Session Special Report on Race, Reparations, and Elections. Thank you all for tuning in. Tune back in next week when we have another special report here on News, Facts, and Comments in conjunction with Major TV. Let's talk. I want to thank Major TV as well as our brother Ramzu for coming through for us. And until next time, that is a wrap.
One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three, just to make sure you ready. Four, let them know that we run this town. One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three, just to make sure you ready. Four, let them know that we run. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. You are now tuned in to the greatest. The greatest of all time. The greatest of all time. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be I'm gonna be better. I'm gonna be better. One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three, just to make sure you ready. Four, let them know that we run this town. One for the money, you know what it is. Two for the show, yeah, we shut it down. Three, just to make sure you ready.